instances in the game where Warrington were a bit unlucky on the live call or not, but if these decisions had gone the other way, I just think it wouldn't have been fair on the performances that we saw on the pitch, if it had. But Jordan Turner's, I can't remember if it was his first try or his second try, because I had quite a lot of beer on Saturday during this game. I can't remember his first try or his second try, but it looked like Ratchford had held him up. I was, fairly certain. There was no shot that saw the ball get grounded, but because it went up as a try, I think it was always going to come back as a try because the ball couldn't be seen one way or the other. But it felt like the kind of situation where Ratchford had pulled off a blinding tackle. And then there was another try, which was kind of like the other way round, where it went up as a no try and it was close call, I think. But that would have, like I say, that would have shaded the scoreline in the wrong way for what the actual game was, because Cass were just far superior and absolutely underlined by that period where O'Neill went to the sin bin. And although Toby King scored pretty soon after, they then went and conceded a couple of tries. Jordan Turner getting his hat-trick try. You shouldn't be beaten for numbers around the outside. And yeah, it just... they just were the better side, and I'm glad that they saw it through at that stage when it did feel like Warrington were making a comeback. They'd got it to 23-14. It was back in the balance with an extra man on the pitch as well, and then they just couldn't compete in the next two or three sets.
Yeah, they just almost faded. They faded away. I don't know if that was a fitness thing or a mentality thing. They just seemed to disappear at that point.
Yeah, I didn't quite get it, to be honest. But when it was, even when it was a 13-point gap, sort of with about 12, 13 minutes to go, you still thought Warrington have got enough quality out there that if it clicks for 2 or 3 plays, it's been a long game at that point, a tiring game, because Cass had put everything into it. You could have even seen them getting a couple of tries and a drop goal and tying it up. But then when they got that penalty that Gareth O'Brien took to make it 15 points, you just sort of thought, well, there's no way they're scoring 3 tries. They might have got 2. There's no way they're getting 3 tries in 10 minutes now, because they're just not good enough. They're just not playing well enough. And they're giving away enough to Cass that Cass are going to be able to control this game.
Yeah, there was just everything was playing into Cass's hands at that point. There wasn't anything where you could see anything other than them, that they would have to get lucky to get one score. And that was they weren't creating enough there to make the luck for themselves.
Yeah, and I think I would have struggled to pull out a player of the match for Cass in this game. I don't remember who got it on the telly. I might have turned off by that point. I don't remember watching the post-match interviews. But I would have struggled to pick one out, because I just think it was other than Turner, because he got a hat-trick, is an obvious call. But I just think so many players, like was one of the fan views said, had the best performance that I've seen out of them this year. Whereas for Warrington, none of the players have played like we've seen them play in those 2 games against Catalans when they were brilliant, for example. None of that this week.
I'll make a case for Michael Shenton, I think, as man of the match. I think for his performance and the way he came out and really led from the front. I've seen League Express have given it to Paul McShane, which is again the obvious one to give it to. But I'd say Shenton.
Yeah, and I couldn't argue with that, because it's hard to argue with any of them. Cause like I say,
exactly, I could probably name about 11 players, and you'd struggle to argue with it.
Yeah, exactly. Interestingly, they gave Paul McShane as the player of the match, but player of the week they've given to Jordan Turner. So Who knows?
It's because two different players do it. Two different people do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's lots of different opinions. Well, let's give our player of the week from the Challenge Cup games that we saw for the three great games on Saturday. Then who's your pick?
I think it's got to be Emily Rudge, isn't it?
Well, I'm going to go Jodie Cunningham. Just because I think at the point where Faye Gaskin went off, Saints could have kind of broken up a bit in their organisation and leadership, but she just stepped up and did double the job basically, and I think there was some better maybe performers, but as a person who controlled the whole thing, I think the role she played and the character she demonstrated was fantastic.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Highlight moment of the week?
Regan Grace.
It is, isn't it? It is Regan Grace.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan Turner's hat trick maybe, but it's Regan Grace. It was a moment that settled a match, and it was an electric moment at that, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of the predictions, me and David both got the Warrington Cast game wrong because we relied on form rather than whatever happened. But so we were both 3 out of 4 last week. But thanks everyone for the fan views on all those games. Absolutely fantastic to see so many people getting in touch, and a few new names, a few old names getting back around us. It's nice to hear from Dave Knight and Ethan as well. So great stuff. We'll now move on to other results, where we'll actually talk about some Super League.
Ooh.
Rightio, Super League round 13 game pulled forward to the spare weekend for Wakefield and Leigh. It was 12-8 to Wakefield at half-time, but that doesn't quite tell the full story of the first half. And they ended up winning 30 points to 20. And again, that doesn't quite tell the full story. Scott Michalauskas was the referee. We can't tell you the story through the stats because they're not online yet, which leads me to think they never will be. So yet more fuck-uppery in the fantasy league as well. A few disciplinary notes out of this one. Liam Hood of Leigh got a grade A dangerous throw charge. That's a 0 match penalty notice, so obviously no previous dangerous throw charges for him. Nathan Peets and Tinarau Rona both got cautions, dangerous contact and other contrary behaviour respectively. So we got some fan views in on this, which is fantastic. Do you want to give us the first one?
Yeah, Alan at Wakey Rule said Leigh came to give it a go and came close to upsetting the odds thanks to a determined and gritty performance. Wakefield had that bit of extra class with Westerman and Fafita leading the line and Lino and Miller looking good, if not consistently so. Good win for Wakefield, but lacking the quality of the last two.
Wakey White said, this game of high entertainment but poor execution. Fair play to Leigh, they came and played with heart and commitment, forcing Wakey to look for the money ball all the time, which usually ended up as a knock-on. Just enough quality from our big players to overcome them in the end though, and it's 3 wins on the spin for Trin.
Tom Andrews said Wakefield seem to have gone back to normal now after their 2 weeks pretending to be New South Wales. Leigh made a bit more of a game of it than they have been. Really tries his heart out every week and doesn't deserve to be surrounded by players like Gelling who don't look arsed most of the game. Well, that's not going to be a problem anymore. No. I would say Leigh's season is over and they have certainly picked their coffin out.
And at Willowtree88, Mark got in touch to say, the worst performance we have dished out in the last 3 weeks, but all that mattered was the 2 points. Wakey tried to score from every play rather than build first. I think this was a welcome reminder that we are not an all-conquering side, so when we play tougher opponents, we will try to do the basics well to deserve to win. Either way, some good individual moments and lots of Leigh errors helped Wakefield get over the line. I listened to bits of this on the radio. One thing I didn't quite get conveyed through the radio commentary was Joe Mellor's try, which was a great piece of his first try, should I say, because he scored a very good second try, but his first try had the kind of two-kick brilliance that you don't see often enough, I think, out of halfbacks in rugby league. So keep an eye out for that one. But yeah, it sounds like Joe Westerman had a really good performance. He got pulled out as the 3-pointers in the Albert Goldthorpe medal. They talked about him glowingly in the back end of the commentary. He scored an important try in his 100th career try just after half time, which I think probably, even though Leigh came back into things after that score, probably was a telling moment in the game. But from what the guys have all said there, it also sounds like a Joe Westerman game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Who screams more trying to score on every play and being entertaining without necessarily always having the substance as Joe Westerman? And the calls for Joe Westerman to be in the England squad. He's having a fantastic season. Don't get me wrong. He's not an international caliber player. No international caliber player steps down a division for a jolly.
Yeah, and there is that mentality question and that shift. And would he be the one that you'd want facing up against, Valentine Holmes running straight at him? And would you trust him not to do something stupid in the big moment?
Yeah.
No.
But he is a quality entertainment, and this is the entertainment industry, as well as the sports industry, and he is being very entertaining and very good for Wakefield this year.
Yeah.
Some other things to maybe pull out, like the best tries were scored by Wakefield, by Leigh in this game, weren't they? And did you see Lewis Tierney's run?
I didn't see anything of this one, unfortunately.
So he absolutely did Max Jowett with his footwork, and then his burst of pace to finally break away to the line was good. But they scored the best tries, but clearly they gave away a lot of ball, and it set up a couple of opportunities that just Wakefield were good enough against not a great defensive side to take advantage of. So Leigh were 8-0 up until about 4 or 5 minutes before half time, and then pretty much but I think it was 2 tries on the next 3 possessions for Wakefield just before the hooter to give them a 12-8 lead. So for all the fact that Leigh were the better side, they couldn't capitalise on it, and they gave some field position up and then gifted the chance to score. And again, they took a 20 points to 18 lead with 15 minutes to go from that Tierney try, and then they just consistently gave the ball away, or gave field position away to Wakefield. And the try that sealed it, Mason Lino's try, was really poor defence. He scored it under the sticks from just a dummy and a run himself when nothing was really on outside of him. So I don't know what they thought the dummy was going to, and just soft defence. But again, Leigh kept fucking around with who was playing in what positions. They need to stop having. So they have Matty Wildy, Nathan Peets, and Jamie Ellis and Craig Mullen on the bench. Now I know they've got a thin squad, and I know they've not got a lot of forwards available or whatever for what have you, for whatever reasons. But you've basically got 4 pivots on the bench. How's that going to work?
It's going to be a roundabout, isn't it?
Exactly, and we've seen, and I know, I know some of it is enforced by the squad depth and the injury situation and what have you, whatever. But it's also indicative of what we've seen all year from them, that they keep swapping the players throughout the match in the key playmaking positions. How are you going to get consistency and coherence in attack or defence with that being the case? Anyway,
there we go. Well,
we're not going to go through the full table,
done.
but Wakefield now have got 3 wins. They're safe now, I think. I don't see Leigh winning 4 games without Wakefield winning at least 1 more. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't see Leigh winning 4 games.
It would need a large change in